What's your definition of heavy metal?
I haven't got one. I've given up. There's no point in even trying to define it.
Yeah.
It's defined more by other people than it's defined by me. Because when I started out listening to music, there was no such thing as heavy metal. It was a term coined by a journalist, actually, and I think it's from William Rice Burroughs' novel. But that's a minor detail. But excuse me, metal came out of something that was called heavy rock. Heavy rock was simply an offshoot of blues rock. Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and things like that, and Free and all those bands. They weren't heavy metal, but they kind of came into heavy metal orbit. And then the whole world of music became polarized. It became very niche. Everybody was put in their little silos. And that was as much a fact of life because of the media, because the media did that. And then record companies figured out that they could market it and yada, 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 and so on and so forth. But we've managed to survive, and not just survive, but to thrive, in a sense, outside that system. So people call us heavy metal, and we said, yep, fine, we are.
So how have you been able to survive and prevail?
First of all, we don't ally ourselves to the media. We're not part of the cult of celebrity for its own sake. Hopefully, if we end up having any notoriety, it's because we've actually done something, as opposed to having, plastic surgery or whatever, or being on...
Or being famous for being famous.
Being famous for being famous, exactly. Turning up to the opening of an envelope. So we do what we say. We do it with integrity. We do a lot of touring. Okay, we do about 3 months a year, but we tour fairly intensely, and we, I hope, do really good shows. And we engage as much as possible with our audience, which is increasing, because years ago in the 80s, we did one show in the New York area, maybe 2. We're now doing 4, so we're twice that size, and it's a global band. So our niche has grown. I like to say our fans are like plywood. We grow a new laminate of them every generation, and they all stick to each other.
A big Asian audience?
Asian audience, Japan is traditionally, a good destination. But on the round the world tours, we went to South Korea, we went to Malaysia, Jakarta, India, we're very big. South America, Latin America, absolutely huge. Yeah. North America, Canada, we're pretty much everywhere. Antarctica, not so big.
Not too many people there. What's the size of the venues you do now, mostly? Anywhere from
10 to 80,000.
10 to 80, so stadiums too.
Yeah. We tend now, I think, out of preference, if we had a preference, I loved this most recent American tour because a lot of it was indoors. It just makes the show more effective. Outdoors, it's always a compromise with the lights and the sound and the, pyro, whatever special effects you have. Indoors, you get much more impact with the show, and we are a very theatrical band. It is, as I describe in the book, when I started doing music, I was this curious mixture because I started out doing theatre and doing acting, and then I discovered I could sing after deciding I didn't want to be a drummer.
You discovered you could sing because somebody listened to you and said, boy, you can sing?
That's right. Yeah. And I went, can I? And that person, that one little moment, I talk about it in the way, it's a spark that just gives you that enthusiasm. And it can be one thing in your life in childhood that just flips a switch and you think, yes, I can. And I was really underconfident for a long time because being a singer there's nowhere to hide. You don't have a plank to hide behind that you can blame. If you play a wrong note, the guitarist, the guitarists, they play a wrong note, they always look at the guitar like, how dare you?
You did it.
You did it, yeah. But the singer, you got nowhere. People throw tomatoes at you when you sing bum notes. So you have to have this confidence, but you just grow a thick skin,
Do you consider yourself now more of a front man or a solo artist? Or
No,
does it matter?
I'm the lead singer from Iron Maiden. I mean, that's what I do. That's what I do. I quit the band for 5 years,
Right.
and I did that because I was having my little artistic dark night of the soul.
Yes.
And and I was in LA doing a solo album, and I realised I had no idea how to be creative outside of the framework of Iron Maiden, and it terrified me. I was thinking, I am in an institution, and I will die in this institution if I don't do something about it. What can I do? And there was a quote from Henry Miller in the LA Times, just in the thought for the day.
Yeah.
And
you remember the quote?
yeah, it's in the book, but it's something like all growth is an unpremeditated leap in the dark with effectively no idea of where you're going to land.
Yeah.
And I went, God, he's right. Every bit of my life that's ever produced anything of any worth has been that hanging on by your fingernails going, oh, I hope this works out. Yeah. And somehow it does. Like you throw a cat out of the window and it always ends the right side up. And I realised that I had to do that to figure out whether or not actually I belonged in the universe as a singer anymore. And so I quit. And it was a little bit difficult explaining it that, you know, I quit because of a newspaper clipping out of the LA Times. Because I got various things like he's gone mad. So I did. And I flailed around for a year or so, not knowing what to do. And finally, I came up with some pretty good stuff. I did six albums. And finally, they asked me to rejoin the band. So at that point...
So that was an easy decision.
It was, yeah, it was relatively easy. I was with a band at the time who I loved. I adored these guys. They were from LA, they were from the Valley, and we'd done like 3 albums together, and we really had a bond, you know. And I had to sit them down and go, look, guys, they've asked me to rejoin Iron Maiden. If I know what's going to happen, I'm going to rejoin Iron Maiden, and my feet aren't going to touch the floor, and I'm going to be busy. We're not going to be able to make any more music, you know, in practical terms. What do you think? And one of the bass players said to me, he said, man, he said, you've got to do it. I said, yeah, but why do you say that? You know,
Why do you say that?
It's self-interest. And he said, no, he said, man, he said, you're putting Iron Maiden back together. He said, the world needs Iron Maiden. And I went, hey, sounds like the Blues Brothers, you know, we're putting the band back together. But I went, you know what? You're right, you know.
Why do you think he would say that?
Because he was a big Iron Maiden fan.
Right. Did you ever imagine that you would be a rock and roll star when you approach your 60th birthday?
No.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I never imagined that I'd be a rock and roll star, period. Like, period. And, you know, I was thinking as far away as maybe a 3,000-seat theatre would be like, oh, my God, you know. And I was a kid underneath the bed sheets with a torch, and I'd be drawing little fantasy stage sets in biro in an exercise book, you know, when I was 16. And then I got into Iron Maiden, and it was, as I said, the world's biggest roller coaster, except the roller coaster never got to the bottom.
But, you know, you really are a Renaissance man. I mean, for example, most people probably don't know you're a pretty good fencer too, aren't you?
Well, it gets exaggerated, but I was in the top 10 in the UK for a while, and
top 10 fencers in the UK.
Yeah, I did get to, you know, represent my country, which was great. You know,
represent your country where?
No, in European competitions.
Yeah,
you know, the European Cup and things. We won the my fencing club. We won the national championships. So we went to the European Cup to represent the UK. And there were sort of the equivalent, the fencing equivalent to tennis World Cup events, you know. So I went as an individual competitor to those. Didn't do very well. So, you know.
But it's just, you know, to be in the top 10 in your country in any sport, pretty
Yeah,
damn
it's hard
good.
work. It's hard work. I mean, I'm very, I'm very proud of the fact that I managed to do it while still working in a band. That was hard work, you know.
Why the title? What does this button do?
Funny you should say that. The book's being released in Germany. The German publishers had a real problem with the title.
Why?
They said, well, we don't like the title. And we said, what's wrong with the title? They said, we don't understand it. I said, what don't you understand about the title? What does this button do? It's like, oh, let's press the button and see what happens, you know. Yeah. They goes, yeah, you don't do that in Germany. You only push the button if you know what it does.
A different culture.
I went, I think we need to talk, you know. So
did you change the title for Germany?
No. We said the book is going to be called What Does This Button Do? In English.
Yes.
And then underneath you can put Das Autobiography or whatever it is, you know. So that's what we've gone with. And I think it's a bit of a nonsense that they don't understand that concept. But yeah, it is very much have a go at everything. What does this button do? And there's a little bit of mischief about it as well. Because it's
mystery and mischief.
Yeah, mystery and mischief. You know, don't push the red button. Well, every child on the planet is immediately going to push the red button, you know.